Hey you at home, yeah, you with your one graphics card inside of your gaming PC. What if I told you you could have two graphics cards?
And today we're going to show you the two best ones that still support dual GPU gaming, Vega 64s. And are they actually worth it buying on the used market to run two GPUs in Crossfire in 2024? We're going to benchmark it and find out after a word from today's sponsor.
This is probably no surprise, but Microcenter is our favorite place to shop in person for amazing deals on PC hardware. And if you're a new customer, Microcenter has a deal specifically for you. You're able to get $25 off all processors. There's also a back-to-school savings event going on right now where you can get all your education essentials at a heavy discount. For example, they have this Lenovo IdeaPad Slim with a Ryzen 5 7520U for just $289. That's some crazy value. Plus, if you're located in South Florida, you're in luck. Microcenter is opening a brand new store in Miami. And if you consider yourself a tech enthusiast, you're missing out if you aren't signed up for Microcenter News. With tech tips, reviews, exciting news, and more, Microcenter is posting the latest and greatest information in the industry for free, and you need to check it out. If you're interested in learning more about all of Microcenter's offerings, check out the links in the description down below or head over to microcenter.com. Big thanks to Microcenter for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to it.
You know, dual GPUs is actually pretty weird these days. Back in the day, you know, like the GTX 1080 era and the 900 series era, it was really awesome to have cards in SLI, or for AMD standards Crossfire, because a lot of games such as Crysis, for example, could actually use both graphics cards at the same time to basically get double their performance. But there's a lot of games that will only run on one graphics card at a time, so even though you have two, you're only actually utilizing one. And there's some programs that can utilize two still, but nowadays the cards are just so strong. We've got freaking 4090s in the market. That's probably like 5 1080s combined, if not more, so there's no point in doing two cards like this anymore, or is there?
So what we ended up buying were Vega 64s, which in AMD side of things with Crossfire is the last highest end graphics card that does natively support Crossfire. Now the main thing with Crossfire you need to know is it's supported on two levels, from the GPU and from the motherboard level. First of these GPUs, again, we got these Vega 64s. I actually bought them used from two different sellers. In total, I spent $240 on both of these cards. So these graphics cards come with 8 gigabytes of HBM2 memory, which was high bandwidth memory that AMD was really pushing with this Vega line of graphics cards. They were released in 2017, and for the most part, they were pretty much the competitor to the GTX 1080. They were very close, but they pulled a ton of power. So we decided to get two of these, because you know what, pull a ton of power. Let's do it twice and run them in Crossfire. And the one thing that is cool about these, well, I say cool, but just something to note is they do not use the old school Crossfire bridge where you normally get a physical connector to connect these two GPUs in a system. They just run through the motherboard, which I have a little test bench I put together, guys. Shout out to Zalman for the case. This right here is an MSI B450 motherboard because AM5 does not support Crossfire on the motherboard level. That's why we couldn't use our pretty test bench that we use for all our GPU benchmark videos. We got this with a Ryzen 5 5600, 16 gigs of DDR4 memory, and all in all, a pretty decent motherboard combo with a 850 watt power supply that has enough PCI power connector and wattage to power this. Honestly, it was getting a little bit close to my initial testing. You'll see it does pull a ton of power, but we should be good with the 850 watt. And originally I was just gonna like test bench this on top of a motherboard box, but then I was thinking dual GPUs inside of a computer looks so freaking cool. We need to build a PC around this to really show what it looks like. So you wanna put these things in there and see what we can do with them?
I'm very excited to try that.
So yeah, let's go and slap them in here real quick. Now the thing you will notice as well is with these cards, this was from an era where the blower style reference cards from AMD were horrible. As in they get very loud, have really bad coil whine, but that's really the only way you can find Vega 64s anymore is in this reference style. There were very few aftermarket ones that were actually ever made. But yeah, the biggest thing is with the motherboard, you wanna make sure you have at least one top slot being a full X16 slot and the bottom slot at least an X8 for Crossfire to work. This motherboard specifically in its manual says it supports Crossfire, so that's why we picked a B450. A lot of B550s don't specifically say, so I didn't want to, oh god, I lost a screw. That one's not coming back. I didn't specifically want to gamble on getting a higher end B550 for this to not work, so I just settled on the one that I knew worked. You know what's funny is when they're in Crossfire, one of them glows blue, one glows red.
Whoa. Yeah, that's cool. All right, it should be pretty satisfying, but stack these bad boys up.
Remember back in the day, wasn't it you with your 7770s that you wanted to run Crossfire?
I really wanted to, yeah. They had the bridge connector. I have no clue if it would have been worth it, probably not. But.
And since we did go for like the highest end GPU option, it is important to note that we could have used like an RX 580 also. Those do support Crossfire as well, but these are actually faster than a 580.
Oh, I bet they're a good amount faster.
Yes. 580 was the budget card. These were the top of the line cards.
And these things use some power.
Yes, a lot of power. 2 8-pins on each one. It was kind of hard finding a power supply that made sense. We actually had a 1,000-watt unit that came with an ATX 3.0 connector and then only 2 8+8-pin cables. So I wasn't able to use that one because of ATX 3.0 taking up the other cables that we normally would have used for dual GPU. But again, these manufacturers aren't making them like that anymore because nobody's really doing this unless you're just crazy and you want to do 3D accelerated tasks with modern GPUs. Gaming is out of the question.
One of the things that we kind of want to compare this to is, you know, the price that we're into this, we're kind of in the RX 7600 territory or like 6700 XT territory.
Yeah, I think based on what we have in inventory at PC Bros, we'll probably compare the 3D Mark benchmark because you can run 3D Mark Time Spy. That works great with Crossfire GPUs. That's all you can do is run synthetic benchmarks. But that works great. But yeah, that'd be a great way to compare this to, let's say, an RX 7600, which I think is like $20 more, but it's pretty close versus the $240 you spent. And obviously, with power efficiency in mind and everything, it definitely is going to be a better option. And we'll talk about the driver situation once we turn this thing on.
Oh my God.
All right, let's see what she looks like. We will grab a monitor and everything, get it hooked up. We have a bunch of games installed.
Whew. Yeah, that's just...
Sheesh. It just looks so cool. I mean, it glows right here.
Great.
Goes right here, and then you see the LEDs. There's a blue LED and a red LED for each one being on and good to go. I'm gonna grab a monitor. We already installed some games. I have a list of some that work. Honestly, we're just gonna launch them all and show you guys what each one does because I kind of have an idea of what's gonna happen. But there are some that do work and we'll show you the difference. And then we'll run 3D Mark as our way of comparing versus a modern GPU. You know, I told Jonah to stop recording, but he wanted to shout out this new organization we have going on here. Look at this. Go to Toasty DIY if you want to see the whole behind the scenes of how we built this. Jonah did a whole series of getting your guys' help to build out this organization setup to make us more organized. Look at these GPUs on the wall. It looks absolutely beautiful. But yeah, we got keyboard. Let's see, where's mice? Mice and controllers. Let's use this one. And if you guys saw the cable management BTF
What
video.
the heck is the Windows?
I don't know what's happening
So
here.
tiny.
Yeah, if you saw that cable management BTF video, you would have known how bad the cables were. It's gotten better.
As soon as we have time, that RAM needs to be red. Do you see this RAM, John?
Yeah,
It's a
the
monstrosity.
RGB is a problem. So I'm still wondering do we sell it like this? So as you can see, we have a wide selection of games on the desktop. A lot to choose from. And all these are from a website, which I will link down below, that lists games that are supported. And I only picked ones that had comments on specifically how the experience was, because there's a lot of them that say they're supported and nothing else really happens. But the thing is, even though they say they're supported, it may not actually work. We are using a really old driver version right now from 2020, because I found some Reddit post back in 2022 saying that once they updated to the 2022 version of the AMD driver, none of their games are working right. And I noticed that with the latest driver that is still supported, I was having a lot of issues with games, so I went back to the old driver to see if that would work, and more games started working because of that. So I'm gonna pull up my Trello card. Jackson, what game you want to try to launch first?
I feel like it's like a guessing game.
It is a guessing game because I have a list of what works and what doesn't, and we're just gonna see if it replicates on here.
Crisis. We'll go in order.
All right, Crisis.
Yeah, this is the game that you were like crazy if you could actually play.
We have MSI Afterburner open.
Shit, is this normal?
Oh, and we are... Okay, that's Crisis 1. It don't launch.
Oh.
It will go black screen in and out for some random reason, which makes no sense to me because that was the game that people would run multiple GPUs on. We can try Crisis 3 Remastered or Crisis Remastered, maybe order of operations here. This is the one that I just finished downloading and launched, and I think it will work.
Okay. And then I guess to verify if we're using both GPUs, MSI Afterburner should...
It'll have both up there and the power draw, which once we're done with this game, I'm actually swap over to our watt reader because I think it'll be very interesting to see the actual watts being pulled from this because it's a lot.
Right, here we go. So I see, so you got each one. Oh my God, the coil whine. Chat, listen.
Listen to that coil whine.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't realize that literally is like a tachometer. It's showing how much power is being used.
Yeah, so you can actually physically see what's happening, but obviously the problem that you're realizing is only one is currently using all the GPU power, which we can load into something just for the sake of it. Just load into like a
Campania?
A Campania, just to show you guys what it looks like, but... Okay, I forgot
this GPU
game.
actually sounds like it's gonna like blow up.
Anyone play Crisis? Do anyone ever play Crisis?
No. So yeah, right now it looks like we're just using whichever, I guess it'd be this one, is number 2. Because based on the GPU tag, and the other one's like not being used.
Not being used at all, which seems to be a problem with some games. Sometimes if you go into the AMD software, which I'll show you after this, sometimes if you re-enable crossfire, it can fix it in some titles, because I had that happen in The Witcher a couple times. We'll check that after we kind of showed you what's happening here. Once we drop in, once you actually get to like a stopping point down at the bottom where you can save, so we can come back to this.
Oh my.
Or stuff like that happens. That's another thing that happens sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, is it'll hard lock up like this and the GPUs will run at 100%.
You just have to like manually restart it? Oh.
I've let it sit for a little bit, but that's normally the problem. Maybe, let me check in the AMD settings. It could have sometimes it turns off crossfire. Jonah was, you came in and you're saying, I spent a lot of time on this.
I've seen this test bench out for a while.
I kind of see why they stopped doing crossfire in SLI.
Yeah, it's just, back in the day it worked, but it still was an enthusiast thing where like stuff like this would happen, crashes would happen. We have some games that work. One game that has worked consistently is Killing Floor 2 of all games. Why, I don't know, it works. Let me pull up AMD Adrenaline here and see what's going on.
I know we've had like people too, like I think of Luke with like the, was it dual 1080 Ti's?
Yes.
And I feel like we've seen people where they have multiple GPUs, they're not even using both. Like they think they are, but like they're actually just using one.
So with the Radeon software. Again, Radeon software from 2020. Doesn't honestly look as old as, so gaming, advanced. Crossfire got disabled. Nice, let's try this now. Okay, let's launch Crysis Remastered again. Should I? But why not? Let's see what happens. I just want to see if both GPUs happen to work. I don't think they will, because even when I was launching it over there, I didn't see it, and that was after I re-enabled Crossfire. And then there is an option in the AMD software to when Crossfire is working, like a badge will pop up in the top right corner saying Crossfire enabled. Is it hard locked up?
This feels like trying to game on a Raspberry Pi. We're gonna get 2 games to work, and it'll feel like a success.
Yeah, this is like, I'm trying to get out. I'm trying
artifacting.
I'm trying to escape. So the GPUs aren't even doing anything right now.
No, they're just chilling.
Do we have a restart counter on screen, McAllister? Every time we have to restart this PC, let's put it up there. We're on, what, number 2?
We're back.
We're back. Wow, restart, cool. Let's make sure it's still.
Should we try a different game?
Yeah, I don't think we should go back to Crysis.
Crysis 1's starting to scare me.
No, I'm gonna say Crysis Remastered and Crysis 1, not gonna happen. Crossfire is still enabled, the logo is still there. Let's go to one that I think works. Let's do The Witcher 3. This is one that if you go back, we actually did a video, we got a trade-in one time of a 3 GPU setup. And what were those?
It was like 980s, right?
980s, we had 3 of them. One thing I have been doing is running it on DX11. I think that's what causes it to work. Let me make sure I have Afterburner open.
Yeah, triple GPU video was cool, but I feel like, now wasn't that one where a lot of, even some of the games that allowed Crossfire, yeah, they couldn't even use all 3.
Yeah, they would only use 2. Witcher was one I think that tried to use all, look at those. I think they're working now. So as you can see, we got the Crossfire technology thing in the top right corner, which is a little badge, I guess just signifies that it actually is working.
All the way up.
Oh, here we go. Look at those wattages.
It's lit.
It's lit, baby. Now, for some reason, this game works. I will say for my testing, oh, gotta hit continue.
1,000 FPS.
1,000 FPS. I will say for my testing, there are different saves that tend to work better than others. I have this one, which I think I'm in like, am I outside? Okay, I'm inside. And it seems to be holding up fine. But you're gonna see some of the issues with Crossfire is this like micro stuttering. Like we'll see if it ends up stuttering anymore, but there's
So is this like max settings?
So this is currently running. We're currently on, let's just hit, what's Ultra Plus?
We can do it.
170 watts each, dude.
Yeah, here we go.
Highest setting, 1080p.
Yeah, we're getting like 55 FPS.
I feel like I'm standing too close. I feel like one of them's gonna blow.
One might blow up. These cards actually scare me a little bit. They're kind of scary.
Hey, back then getting 60 FPS was like the high refresh rate. Like, that's all you needed.
Something's going weird here with these usages. You see how it's like sharing between the GPUs like back and forth.
Yeah, maybe it just thinks it's risky to give any more wattage.
Yeah, the scaling might not be super accurate. So let me make sure that we actually were running.
Like, yeah, we're getting the most wattage usage in the menu.
Okay.
Yeah, because look, when you go back into the game, it's like, I don't need to try as hard.
Like, it doesn't even look that great. Like, I'm being honest. Like, this anti-aliasing just does not look that great. And it's running at 40-something FPS at 1080p, which is not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, I would be willing to bet the 7600 should be able to run the Ultra Plus pretty well.
Oh yeah, no problem, really. What I'll do, and Mikhail, so don't add this to the restart counter, I'm gonna go ahead and launch another game that I know technically uses both GPUs, which will be Killing Floor 2, and we'll run that, and I wanna have the watt reader going for that one to show you guys the full wattage we're pulling. All right, we're back with our watt reader. Jackson, what kind of watts are we working with on idle?
Not bad now.
Okay, it's chilled, actually.
86 watts. Now, yeah, when we were launching, we were hitting over 200 watts. So yeah, definitely a little more than normal, but as far as the idle goes, these things have some efficiency to them.
So yeah, we're gonna launch Killing Floor 2. Now, I will say some of the crashes in terms of like the power requirements, in theory could be the power supply setup because we are for each one of these using an 8+8, which I don't know what the theoretical max is of like one of 8 pins with like the...
It's a lot, I think.
It is a lot.
Yeah,
so it should be fine, but theoretically it could be that considering we're pulling it on both. You know what, that was our best option we had at the time. But we're gonna launch Killing Floor. This is one, love Killing Floor 2. Shout out to Killing Floor 3 coming out soon. That I know works and actually gets pretty crazy FPS numbers, and these things kind of freak out. What's the watts at in the menu right now?
639.
Oh,
my God.
So
that's
a lot of watts. Most high-end builds that we do will not get that much. Look at the FPS numbers, though.
oh my God, 7.
All right,
Yeah,
start
no wonder.
playing.
I'm standing
Okay.
over here.
So this is one of the, I mean, we're basically pulling like 4090 wattage here.
More than that, I feel like.
Wow, we are getting 450 FPS.
I will say this is the one game out of games in my library that had perfect scaling to where like you actually feel like you're getting a benefit from 2 GPUs,
Right.
and it's not super stuttery. It actually runs very smooth.
Yeah.
We're running on a high refresh rate display right now at 1080p. I will say I did run it at 1440p once, and I think it was too much because the system crashed. So I don't know if that was because the GPUs were maxed out 100% or what. They're really close right now, right? 94%. 89, it's going all over the place, but most of you seeing are like high 90s. I think if they both run at 100%, it's not a good idea, stability-wise.
Anyone in the comments excited for Killing Floor 3?
So I could say comfortably we're getting 300, I would say 350, sometimes 400 FPS, and we are running on ultra settings. So I'd be interested to see what the 7600 can do. Do you think it can do that? This is an older game. This is an older game, but...
It's really hard to get high, like, even with a 4090, it's hard to get over like 200 FPS in mini game.
Remember what I was talking about?
Yeah, look, see, like it's this one this time. It's just like pinged out. Makes you wonder if we have one bad one. If they're both kind of weird, it's just the configuration. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad we at least showed you guys what it's capable of doing, but then again, you have the troubleshooting problems with stuff like this long term. I guess we're gonna try to get it back in now that we've shown you the games that will launch, and spoiler alert, there's other ones, Borderlands 3, other games like that we have launched, and they only work with one GPU, even though they said they're supposed to work on multiple. So we're gonna go ahead and get back in. We're gonna run 3D Mark. Let's get a 3D Mark score. I think that's what we need to do at this point. And then we need to compare it with the 7600. From there, we'll be able to tell what the price performance is. But obviously, just out the gate, even if the 7600 is slower, oh no, oh no, oh no.
It's not permanent.
These things are, see, ever since I was testing them, they were scaring me a little bit. They just have like, I'm pulling so much power, scary vibes. And I have successfully ran a 3D Mark benchmark without it crashing. Will that happen again? I don't know. But I did it before. It was a pretty good score. I know what score to look for. Yeah, just a heads up, by the way. I don't think many of you are gonna do this. If you guys aren't wanting to mess around with Crossfire and also just the weirdness that is Crossfire running 2 GPUs, it's not super safe. I mean, I guess technically if you use 580s, what's the worst that could happen? It doesn't pull as much power, but these things pull so much freaking power. In Crossfire, it's kind of unrealistic for you to be running this setup. I would not do it at home. This is just kind of the top of the line Crossfire experience that we wanted to experiment with. Here we go. Let's let her run. We'll see if we get through this benchmark. This is pushing that GPU harder. Like that's at 99%, that's like 89%. The FPS numbers though, that's pretty good for 3D Mark. We've had some budget builds, $500 builds that get like 40 to 50 FPS on average. Oh God, they both hit 99% at one point. The real question is Jackson concerned? When it comes to power supply standards, if he's concerned, then I think we should all be concerned.
A little bit. I haven't seen it, so 716 was the most I just saw. But it definitely...
The frames are wild when it works.
I think the big takeaway though is the fact that I'm not worried about the power supply not being able to push... Let's go to the next scene. I'm not worried about it not being able to push 850. I'm more worried because I know you were asking me how much can the PCIe pull. I figured you meant like, oh, because maybe they'll pull like 150 watts each, but
They're now pulling like 200 watts
yeah, the
each.
fact that it's like 200 plus, that's a little worrisome part. Yeah.
So I might look at that power supply we have in the back. If it has individual 8 pins, that'd be the biggest thing for me. Honestly, even if it doesn't, 1250 watts would give us a little more headroom. That might just plug it up to this and see if we can hold Killing Floor for a little bit longer. Because if it is a power thing, we don't want to not do these things justice by not giving it the proper power and just blaming it on Crossfire being a problem. So we'll show you guys what the power difference could be. We passed. What do we got? 11,325. Look at that GPU score, 12,394. So yeah, that's a good score, 11,325. I think for experimental purposes, because I feel like we're not doing this justice if we don't, I'm gonna grab that power supply from PC Bros, give it a shot, see if we can run Killing Floor without it crashing, and then from there, we'll try the 7600 versus that score. So we did encounter an issue where trying to find the right power supply that will work for this thing, because we are a little concerned that this wattage is going to cause a problem and why we're getting some of the crashes. We will get a different power supply to temporarily test it to make sure that that is the problem and make sure it's not just Crossfire being Crossfire. But what we're going to do in the meantime is go ahead and get our benchmark of the RX 7600 in 3D Mark and see how it compares. But we're going to wait on getting a power supply, then run Killing Floor again and see if the crashes happen. But the biggest issue is we have high-end wattage power supplies here at PC Bros, but all of them come with the ATX 3.0 connector or the PCI 5.0 connector. And because of that, they don't supply you with 4 GPU power connectors anymore. All of them will come with just 3, which again is not enough here for this. So we're gonna have to find a older high wattage power supply that has all the connectors we need and try to get that shipped here so we can complete this test and make sure that, well, what we're using is gonna work out. All right, guys, we have our RX 7600 installed and we're running 3D Mark Time Spy. Let's see if everything loads up properly. And yeah, there we go. So we're gonna go ahead and let this run and just kind of compare the 3D Mark score. Obviously, this is not the end all and be all because of all the other issues we're having with our dual GPU setup. We did get another power supply, so we will rule out that issue. Honestly, I do think the power supply is the problem, and if that's the case, you probably already heard at the beginning of this video us saying, hey, power supply is the problem, oopsies. So we're gonna get a power supply. We finally found one on Amazon that should be here today that'll allow us to test both of these with 1300 watts, which again should be plenty now to run back some of the tests we did to see if they will be much more stable. And if they aren't stable, then well, it's a whole other issue. But we're gonna let this run, we'll get the final score and then see how it compares to the dual GPU setup. If it's even remotely close, even if it's slower, but it's looking like it might be almost exactly the same, it obviously makes much more sense to go with this graphics card. All right, guys, well, it doesn't really, well, change anything in terms of usability, but we actually got a lesser 3D Mark score with the 7600 versus our dual Vega GPUs, which is funny to see. But again, we're waiting on a power supply to show up today, and then we'll be able to run some of the tests again, like Killing Floor, to see if we can actually have a stable gaming experience and not crash due to what we think is the power supply. And then from there, we'll kind of wrap this video up real quick, because again, dual GPU gaming, especially Crossfire, not recommended right now, honestly, because they're older GPUs and you see how much power these things are pulling. It's just not practical. But it was a fun experiment to see what the best of the best that is available still in the Crossfire universe can do. All right, guys, we are back, and just for the sake of testing it, I have this EVGA 1300 watt power supply that I bought on Amazon, and we are running individual 8-pin power connectors to each one of these GPUs. This is 1300 watts. This should be plenty if we're not just having Crossfire crashing issues. So we're gonna load back into Killing Floor. I'm gonna leave the camera up on a tripod and see if it happens to crash again. I'm hoping it doesn't, but there's a chance it might just because, well, Crossfire is gonna Crossfire, but we'll go ahead and launch Killing Floor 2 and see what happens. So we're in the menu right now, and we are currently pulling 693, 697 watts. I'd imagine this is a better power supply for this use case. We'll see if it holds up though. I mean, 600 watts is crazy. Power efficiency wise, again, these are not worth it. All right, guys, we're gonna just keep playing Killing Floor, see what happens here. Obviously, wattage wise, we should be good, but I'm not 100% sold on that yet. So we'll just run around and see if we can stay stable. Jonah, what's the wattage right now? We're at 545. Yeah, so in the menus, it was at like 700, and then it gets in the game and it drops. So I don't know what's going on here. The wattage is like all over the place. So I just wonder what is actually happening with these two GPUs.
Right now. Oh.
And wow, there it went, guys. Knock on wood. So what the wattage dropped to like?
It went up to 800 whenever it tripped.
Really? It went to 8?
I just saw it go to 800.
I don't know what you could, if it's a power thing, I don't know what you could get to actually power this thing. At the end of the day, we got the 3D Mark benchmark and we ran the 7600, and the 7600 did perform worse in 3D Mark, but you guys see all the fatal flaws that come with running these two GPUs and why, well, practically it doesn't make sense. Maybe it would make sense now the GPUs are so power efficient if they brought back that technology, but for these GPUs, again, this was an experimental video. These are definitely not worth going out and buying on your own and running this configuration, but give Crossfire GPUs a shot, and well, we did everything we could to get this working effectively, but I will give this a big no for most people at home. Let's go ahead and wrap this video up real quick.
All right, guys, well, we tried. We tried our best to make Crossfire work perfectly. I would say that we were just half successful because, you know, we got the two graphics cards in there and the system turns on and we can sort of launch some games, but as far as actually playing Crossfire games, we literally got 1.5 of them to really work without crashing, and even with that new power supply, still not great.
Yeah, the new power supply just kind of proved it wasn't really a power issue. It was more or less Crossfire just being difficult to use nowadays. And honestly, considering we had to use an old driver and that there's no new driver support and that these are older GPUs already, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that something like this would happen. But it was still cool to see a Crossfire setup. And honestly, we keep saying this here around the office, even though it's not practical, it still looks really cool. And yeah, I would just say buyer beware. I wouldn't recommend Crossfire for anyone really, but just want to show you guys what these Vega 64s can do. So if you want to shop on eBay for a Vega 64, don't do it in Crossfire though. Check the link in the description down below. Will be an affiliate link. It will help us out. Let us know what you think of dual GPUs, and if you've been building PCs for a long time, did you have a dual GPU setup back in the day?
And as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's experiment. If you did, check out our other two YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros, and do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
This PC right here will be for sale at PCBros.tech, but don't worry, we're probably going to end up splitting these cards up and actually really testing them and getting to the bottom of what was going on.
PCBros.tech. We sell gaming PCs, gaming laptops, and so much more. If you use code TOASTYBROS on checkout, you'll save 3%. We're still getting used to it, guys. We're so used to the 2%. See you guys later. Goodbye.
Do you want to